Hello, and welcome to another Kez Bad Guys Tactical Breakdown. In this breakdown, we are going to be covering Katana. This version of Katana is going to be the comic book version. She is pretty sweet. That pose that she's got there with the Soul Taker sword is totally awesome. I really like her mask and her uniform. Looks really good. The body armor, the sculpt for this, it's pretty simple, but I really like the way Night Models has portrayed her. It's just really sweet. She is one of my favorite characters from the comic book. She's in a ton of different comic books. So she's in the Suicide Squad, she's in the Birds of Prey, she's also in the Green Arrow comic book series, as well as the Batman comic book series. Does little appearances here and there. Awesome character. Let's go ahead and get onto her character card. So her character card, this is Tatsu Yamashiro. She is known as Katana. She is a free agent for the Green Arrow crew and Batman crew. So this version is not available for the Law Forces crew. The cheaper version that is in the Suicide Squad box is available for the Law Forces crew. She is also available to be in the Birds of Prey and in the Suicide Squad. Let's go ahead and go on to her weapons. She has the classic Soul Taker Katana, which is a great weapon in the Batman Miniatures game. It is a double blood weapon in close combat, so no rate of fire or ammo. It is handy and sharp, so handy is going to be re-rolling to hit, sharp is going to be re-rolling damage. So she gets re-rolls for everything in close combat, which is awesome. On top of that, it is also enervating 1. So enervating is if you ever do damage to a character, on top of them losing action counters to the damage they take, they also lose 1 additional counter. So the Soul Taker's sword slowly drains out your soul, and that's the way they've shown this on the tabletop, is that it's got enervating, which is awesome. The next set of weapons is going to be her shuriken. So she has ninja stars. These are damage double stun, rate of fire 2, ammo 2, so she can shoot them 2 times in a game. They are throwing, so she uses her strength to damage. She also doesn't lose rate of fire for moving and shooting these weapons. And then they are short range, so 20 centimeters. So pretty good weapon. Kind of standard for anyone in the Bat family has something kind of like this. It's really cool that they gave Katana a ranged attack. Let's go ahead and go on to her stat line. Her stat line is going to be willpower 6. This is pretty good, kind of standard for free agent sidekick level characters. 6 willpower is going to be enough to do things that you want to do. She's not going to have all the counters to be able to do all the things. So she's not going to be able to move, attack, and defend. You're going to have to kind of choose what you want to do. So just like any other character in the Batman game, you're going to want to make sure to have a plan with this character, what you want to get done. 6 willpower is enough to get done what you want, but make sure not to put her out of position, get attacked too many times, stuff like that. She is strength 5, which is probably the weakest part about this character. Sharp is going to help her out a lot with re-rolling damages, but strength 5 plus can sometimes be a letdown. That's mostly what regular henchmen are, and sometimes in the Batman universe, like this game, women characters are strength 5 plus, which can be frustrating sometimes. So just keep that in mind when you take this character, that she's not super brawly, but the sharp is really going to help her out. She is then movement 3, attack 5, and defense 4 with endurance 6. So pretty good stat line. Movement 3 is going to be awesome. She is an acrobat, so she's going to be able to get all kinds of around. Movement 3 really help her out. Attack 4 and defense 4 Really good. For how many points you're paying for this character, attack and defense 4, totally worth it. Attack 4 with the Soul Taker sword is really, really good. She's only going to be blocked 50% of the time and only going to be hit 50% of the time. So really good, really like those stats. Endurance 6, she is not a super tank. She's not going to be able to take all kinds of damage and just walk through it. Endurance 6 is kind of average for free agents and sidekick level characters. Endurance 6 doesn't let her down, but make sure that she doesn't take tons of damage during the game, or else she's going to start losing willpower and become less effective in the game. So let's go ahead and go on to her personal trait. So her first personal trait is going to be Acrobat. Acrobat is the trait that everybody really, really loves in the game. Lets you move around pretty freely, lets you dodge bullets, which are probably the most deadly thing in the game. So Acrobat, people totally look for and love taking characters with Acrobat. Her next personal trait is going to be Adaptable. So Adaptable is an awesome trait. It can totally help you out. So at the beginning of the Raise the Plan phase, you need to pick one of these 3 stats, so movement, attack, or defense, and that stat gets a +1 to it. So that means movement will turn to 4, attack will turn to 5, or defense will turn to 5. So Adaptable can totally make or break the way you're going to use the character during the turn. She can either all of a sudden get a really big boost to speed, become really, really good in close combat, so it's hard to block her, or she can get all kinds of dodgy and get that defense 5, which is really hard to hit. I usually just opt for defense 5 almost all the time. Turn 1, I mostly go movement 4 just to get her somewhere really quickly. But after that, I'm usually sticking on defense 5 just to make sure that she doesn't take hits. Adaptable, really, really good. Putting attack 5 on her with that Soul Taker sword can be really devastating as long as you roll those damages. Really, really good. Her next personal trait is going to be Feint. This is a special trait that I hardly ever use. It's very circumstantial. So Feint is you spend 1 special and you target a character in close combat, so base to base. You have to pass an agility test, and if you pass it, they have to remove 1 defense counter. So essentially, you're trading a counter for a counter. Sometimes it can totally not be worth it, because if you're planning on attacking somebody and you just use your adaptable for attack 5 and just swing at somebody, you've got handy, you've got sharp. Feint, the only way I ever use Feint is if I'm attacking someone that has sustained defense. So for every 2 defense, they get an additional defense dice. And those characters are the only ones that I use Feint on, because then it's worth it. You're actually trading 1 counter for usually 2 counters. So that's the way that I use it. Outside of that, I have found that it's not worth using. Her next personal trait is going to be Martial Artist, which is going to be the close combat trait that you don't suffer from the numerical superiority negative modifier. So if she's ever based by multiple people, she doesn't lose a defense, which is awesome. Makes it so she can be effective being brawly, running out there, cutting people up. Totally worth it. Really, really good trait. The next personal trait is going to be Precise Blow. This is a trait that I totally love. It is spend a special. Anytime you attack during the rest of the turn, you get a +1 to hit, and you get to reroll your collateral dice. Precise Blow affects close combat and shooting, so can totally help you out with throwing the shurikens as well as hitting with the Soul Taker sword. So that 1 counter can really change how often you're going to be hitting somebody. You do have handy with that Soul Taker sword, but if you're fighting somebody like Batman or Deathstroke, someone with defense 5, all of a sudden you're, instead of hitting on 5s with rerolls, you're hitting on 4s with rerolls. And that +1 can sometimes be make or break with getting a ton of hits or not. Rerolling the collateral dice can be good just because you can get a double and end up getting a knockdown in the combat. But because she doesn't have a crit ability, it can sometimes, like that, re-rolling the collateral die is sometimes wasted on this character, but getting a knockdown from that is really, really good. Her last personal trait is going to be stealth. So stealth is the ninja trait from the Batman universe. It is, instead of being able to be seen at 30 centimeters, you're seen at 20 centimeters, which is totally awesome. This character really benefits from that because she can skirt shooters and then run in and base them to make it so they don't get to be able to shoot. Really, really good. I love that on this character. So let's go ahead and move on to her reputation and funding costs. So she is 75 reputation, which is totally worth it. She has a really solid stat line. The weakest part to it is, just like I've already covered, her strength. Strength 5+ can sometimes be frustrating. And then endurance 6 is also another weak point. Just make sure that she doesn't get damage on her. Go after individual henchmen. She's really good at that. And then her funding cost is $100. The shuriken are just like the battlings. Most of the Bat family have stuff like that, but the Bat family gets to take them for free. So it can be frustrating sometimes building a crew and having katana in there and having to spend that $100 because it does pull away from equipment that you get to give your characters. In the teams that she can be in Suicide Squad and in the Birds of Prey, the $100 you're totally not going to care about, just because you're not ever going to get up to $1,500 with the standard crew building costs. In the Batman crew and the Green Arrow crew, you can sometimes be frustrated with that $100. So just keep that in mind when you take this character, that it can cut into having that extra magazine or a whistle or something on one of your cops. So let's go ahead and talk about strengths and weaknesses. So strengths to this character is totally going to be her katana, because a katana is one of the best weapons in the game, with having handy and sharp, so rerolls for everything in close combat, so rerolling to hit and damage. Her strength can be frustrating, like I've talked about, but precise blow can really help out with getting as many hits as you possibly can to get that damage rolls. Her weaknesses are probably going to be her endurance level and her strength. I've gotten pretty frustrated sometimes with running up to a henchman, getting a ton of hits on him, and then rolling those damages, even with sharp, and getting no damage. It can be very frustrating because getting 5s on dice can sometimes be pretty hard. So let's go ahead and talk about how I use this character on the tabletop. The way I use this character is I use her as a seek and destroy missile for henchmen. The random henchman that tries to run off and grab the loot counter or tries to run around a flank, I will use Katana because she's not that expensive, but she's really, really fast, and she can usually handle a henchman by herself and totally take him out in a turn and get back into the fight very quickly. Just because she's an acrobat, she has adaptable, so she can move her, get her movement up to 4, gets her very, very far on the tabletop. Usually after I kill that pipe henchman that's running to get loot, or whoever goes after the loot, I'll then send her to my Titan dose, because Katana on Titan is amazing. She'll go kill that henchman, run over to my Titan, start capturing victory points, pull a Titan dose out, and then if anybody ever goes after her, she pops the Titan, gets a bonus to all of her stats, and then cuts down whoever she's fighting. Really, really good. Tons of fun to play this character. I play this character in all the different teams. I don't have much for the Green Arrow crew, but I am picking up a Green Arrow very soon. Really looking forward to having that character and then playing a classic Green Arrow team. And let's go ahead and go on to the paint job I have for this character. So this is my Katana. I painted her up just kind of in the classic scheme with her black bodysuit with armor plates, her red painted shin guards with her left arm being covered with a white armor guard with the red underneath. I really like her classic mask. Totally looks awesome. The white mask with the red dot. Her black hair, it's cut pretty short, looks really good. Really like this model. The pose is just great. She's in like this awesome defensive stance, leaning back. Looks really good. I really like this character. Tons of fun to play. So how do you guys play this character? What are your thoughts about her? And remember, cause bad guys.